Today I will be reviewing Robert Altman's 1971 anti-western McCabe and Mrs. Miller. Now, this when I first wrote this review back in 2017 on IMDb, I thought it was one of the best written reviews that I'd ever done. So hopefully this turns out to be one of my best video reviews. The thing with when I wrote this was I just kept going on and on about really everything. The movie has so much to offer, and I just loved going deep into this film. It's my favorite Robert Altman film, and it's also one that I don't think everyone's gonna really like. It's it's pretty slow, it's pretty quiet, but unlike recent films like Portrait of Lady on Fire, this one is able to get the magic touch perfectly right. It's more realistic in how quiet and slow it is, and it is not beyond boring. It's a lot more lively, and it's a lot more original too. So the year before Altman did this, he did Brewster McCloud and his ultimate breakout film, which was MASH. And yeah, in this one right here, I would call this Robert Altman's best looking film. It's a visual marvel that he never ended up topping. I think that even though it's dark and it's dreary and muddy and gloomy, it's still able to manage to keep a really good look to it. Even like David Lean or John Ford wouldn't have been able to make this movie better than Robert Altman did. Those guys thrived on doing westerns and really good-looking films. Robert Altman loved to explore cinema, going beyond above and beyond basic conventions. This led to him making anti-films. Like MASH was anti-war, The Long Goodbye was anti-film noir. Three Women was anti-friendship, Players anti-Hollywood, and McCabe and Mrs. Miller is an anti-western. Because when you look at regular westerns, you see deserts and mountains and bright blue sky and really nice outfits. With this one, it's muddy and snowy and cloudy and wet. I haven't read the book that this is based on, but I think that maybe the whole anti-Western aspect was Robert Altman's idea. It wouldn't surprise me anyway. The alternate look that Robert Altman does in this is it's usually the first thing that people notice. This film was shot in a small Vancouver suburb where it snows a lot and it was easier to capture what most westerns wouldn't be able to do. So the movie starts off with John McCabe, just like that's the name of my grandfather, who's played by Warren Beatty. He's traveling through and he stops by a tiny mining community of Presbyterian church named after the only significant building. Legend has it that he is a violent gunslinger who recently killed a man. But is he really? Presbyterian church really has nothing to it. When he's there, it's really dark and damp, and the village presents almost like a cave. But McCabe has an idea. He wants to make prostitution the driving force of the town. And so his work in Presbyterian Church grows from nothing to something. Buildings are being built, and Robert Altman actually got real construction workers to wear costumes as if they were part of the film, and got them to make more buildings in it. And it's cool to see Presbyterian Church evolve into a driving force by John McCabe. He's a pimp really, from that time. He wears those big fur coats that the 70s pimps usually wear. It's very complex, and Beatty successfully tackles it. So, not far into it, he meets a Cockney woman named Constance Miller, who is played by Julie Christie, and offers to help McCabe's whorehouses grow as only she knows. McCabe doesn't want any partners, but he eventually reluctantly agrees to it. It's thanks to Mrs. Miller that the prostitution empire grows into a big deal. Now, she's smarter than McCabe is, but he can't accept any of that. So the first half of the film, yeah, it's just them evolving the whorehouses. But the main plot of the film happens roughly halfway through the film. It's about 2 hours long, and the second half is like the main plot of the film. So McCabe is being offered to be bought out by successful businessmen. The money's huge, but McCabe's personal pride shoots them down. Mrs. Miller tries to talk him into accepting the offer, but he disagrees with her. More money comes into Presbyterian Church, but his ego will eventually end it all. And yeah, as I said before, the look of the film might put people off, but also its main theme of prostitution might also be a turnoff for people. I mean, like the women in the film are treated as low class people that are only good for sexual purposes. While Mrs. McCabe is the driving force, it's ultimately the women that provide the satisfactory. And it's McCabe and it's Mrs. Miller that's actually the smart one of the titular characters. And this movie goes to show that women actually are powerful and smart, sometimes more than men. If it was women that were in charge, Presbyterian Church would not be turned upside down at all. And of course, there's a whole bunch of great themes that are very well tackled in this. Like there's legends, truth and women empowerment and all that kind of stuff, and it's really good. And also you got the Leonard Cohen soundtrack, which only comprises of 3 songs, but it's quite haunting and it's quite brilliant too. So yeah, hopefully I did a good job putting my written review of McCabe and Mrs. Miller into video. If not, then whatever. I still have a long ways to go. I know I do. But, yep. Other than that, I'm going to give my favorite Robert Altman film, one of my top 100 favorite films of all time, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, The Highest Standard Possible, which is 4 stars.